Amazing people. We've got another example of dealing with annuities here. Now, in this example, we're told that Christopher wants to save a certain amount at the end of each year for 5 years until he has $20,000 to buy a car. Now, if the interest rate is 3% per annum, find the amount of each annual contribution that Christopher needs to make. Now, in order to understand what's happening here, first of all, let's break this down a little bit. So, dealing with normal interest categories, we have to calculate the number of time periods. In this case, it's going to be 5 years, which we're dealing with. Now, the interest rate is also important, and we're told that it is 3% per annum. So this is going to be 3%, but if we represent this as a decimal, that would be 0.03. Now, lastly, we need to know what we're trying to find here. And the amount we're trying to find is the future value. And that future value amount in this case is going to be $20,000. Now, what we want to do in order to work this out is we want to use a kind of special equation where we use the annuity amount from a table. Now, in this case, our answer is going to be $20,000. That's what we're trying to find at the end. But what we do need to do is we need to work out what the contributions are, which we are making, and then we also need to know the value from the future value table, which we'll go and look up now. Now, here on our future value table, we've got 5 years, which is that amount there. And we are doing it for 3%. So that's going to be that column there. Now, where they both intersect here, we can see that we've got the value of 5.3091. So that's what we need to use in this question. Okay, so now with the amount in here, to work out the size of the contributions, what we're going to do is we're going to rearrange what we've got here. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to divide both sides by 5.3091 in order for us to do this. Now, one other thing is, rather than use a word like contributions, what I'm going to do is I'm going to change this and make it the letter X, because X is often the thing we use in algebra. It just helps simplify things here. So then I'm going to have X is equal to 20,000 over 5.3091. And once we go through and type this into a calculator, we'll find that we'll get an amount of $3,767.12. And that's obviously being rounded to 2 decimal places here. And what this is saying is if we are investing this amount every year for 5 years and the interest earned on that amount, we're going to find that we end up getting that amount of $20,000 in order to buy a car in 5 years' time. Now, in this next example, we're told that Alexis wants to save up $50,000 deposit for a home over 7 years. She wants to make contributions at the end of every quarter, and interest is at 8% per annum, paid quarterly. What size contribution should she make? Now, first things first, we need to understand the number of time periods that we've got here. Now, in this case here, it's not actually 7 years because she's making those contributions at the end of every quarter. Now, there are 4 quarters in a year. So in this case here, it's actually going to be the 7 years times those 4 quarters, which gives a value of 28 time periods. Now, in addition to that, we need to think about the rate. Now, we're told that the rate is 8% per annum. Now, that 8% again needs to be split up into each of those 4 quarters here. And when we do that, what we find is it ends up to be 2%. And lastly, the amount we're investing, we're told is we want it to be 50,000. So that's going to be $50,000 there. What we do is we take our future value of $50,000. We want that to be equal to X times the rate which we find on a future value table. Now, this is our future value here, and X is our contributions. So we'll go and look at the table. Now, here on the table, what we're doing is we're looking for 28 years. Now, we can see right down here, we have a value of 28 that we can access. Now, in addition to this, the rate we're using is 2%. So that's going to be the second column here. So when we go down, what we find is this is the amount here which we're trying to use, which is 37.0512. So with this amount now into our equation, we've got to rearrange it. And so we're going to make X, our contributions, the subject here. So we're going to take that $50,000 and we're going to divide it by 37.0512. Now, as we go through and type this into our calculator, we then find we have an amount of $1,349.48. And again, this is rounded to 2 decimal places. So this is the amount which is going to be contributed every single month for those 28 time periods in order to earn interest and reach an amount at the end of those 7 years or 28 time periods of $50,000.